Vote for Donald Trump. I love my freedom. I will vote for Donald Trump.
She's the sweetest person, and she prayed for you.
Wayne DeMario owns a guitar store in the Miami area, and to no one's surprise, he voted for Donald Trump and now regrets his vote because his life partner has been stuck in an ICE facility in Louisiana. Oh, and it gets better. She was also a Trump supporter. Wayne's partner is originally from Cuba, and to no one's surprise, in his interview with reporter Christian de la Rosa, he says flat out what most Cubans already think. A Cuban is not going to get deported.
Cuban's not going to get deported.
Well, I guess we're about to find out soon enough. Like with all of these cases, Wayne goes on to say in the interview, I didn't vote for this.
I didn't vote for this, but I definitely voted Republican.
Wayne, that's exactly what you voted for. You just didn't think you would be affected. And she may be the sweetest person to you, but according to that same interview, she's had a history in the past of petty theft. So make of that what you will, but I am not sympathizing with you, nor should anyone else, because that is exactly what he voted for.
This gentleman thought that Cubans for Trump are not going to be deported. Now, his wife is stuck in ICE detention, is crying, this is not what I voted for. Let us see what these guys are saying.
I'm in 2 weeks. I'm done. You want to talk about regretting your vote?
I never thought I'd say that, but I regret my vote. I voted for Trump.
I voted for Trump, and I regret it now.
As a Hispanic, I voted for Donald J. Trump. Dude, I regret it so much, man.
I am regretting I voted for Donald Trump.
I voted for Donald Trump, and now I regret it.
A lot of people who were like me voted for Trump and have to account for that.
I regret voting for Trump.
So deeply regret my vote for Donald Trump.
I regret voting for Trump.
I was a dumbass, voted for Trump. It was the worst decision I ever made.
I've seen the light, and I got out of MAGA. A lot of us there have seen the light. We have deep regrets.
I feel guilty because I voted for Trump twice. I feel very guilty because I feel responsible. That's why he's still running.
I was with Trump for 9 straight years. I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed in Trump right now.
I myself am Cuban. My whole family is immigrants. So you would think, hey, I'm pro-immigrant. He can offend Cubans tomorrow and I wouldn't care. As long as my life is better and my peers are enjoying their life as well.
What I would like to see is more jobs come up here, less war, a backbone for America, a better immigration policy. My father came here, got us all citizenships from overseas. He had 4 children. He brought us into all those things to give us a better future. Things are haywire. Let's see what we could get done in this go around with Trump.
I know tons of people that just came from Cuba 20 years ago, doctors, and they've done their American dream. They've done their due process.
I wanted to see Trump back in the White House. And I think people who come here legally, or people who are here and see what is going on with the immigration and how they're giving thousands and thousands of dollars for these people who are coming here, money that they could be spending on the problems that we have in our country.
Really?
Do you regret your vote right now?
Well, between him and her, I thought he was the better choice, but honestly, I miss my Uncle Joe. I was a nobody, and I was balling then. Now, I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't even show you $5 in my pocket.
We spoke to Trump voters here in Florida who are ticked off about the fact that the gas prices in the state have gone up by an average of about 60 cents within just a week.
I would just wish he'd keep up on his campaign promise and say he was going to put it under $3. He'd end that war so fast. But here it is, 5 years later, helping his buddy out get his more money. And then never mind charging us Americans all sorts of money for fuel that you just stole from Venezuela.
And those gas prices are getting higher because of volatile oil prices due to the war in Iran, a war that these Trump voters tell us they hope wraps up quickly.
If I could, speak to the president, I'd just encourage him to finish up this war and get us back to a safe world.
He's saying about for our safety, leave somebody alone. They won't bother you.
Hopefully this conflict over there will end. It's just unfortunate.
The overall vibe here at the gas pump amongst these Trump voters is they feel like the economy is not going well right now.
At the moment, I'm really out of work.
My hope is that it's temporary and it doesn't.
What? A lot of Cubans in Miami and South Florida voted for Trump, understanding that his intention was to deport people. They never thought those deportations would apply to Cubans. They thought it would apply to other people because Cubans have always had an advantage in the U.S. There's something, passed by under Lyndon Johnson's administration, the Cuban Adjustment Act, which basically gave Cubans a welcome no other immigrants had. It gave them a fast track to residency and then to citizenship. That is still the law of the land. So Cubans assumed that whatever happened generally with deportation would not apply to them because of the Cuban Adjustment Act. But in practice, the Cuban Adjustment Act is not being observed. So Cubans are being detained. They show up for regular immigration check-ins and they're being detained. They show up for asylum hearings and judges dismiss their cases, which means that they're eligible for deportation. I think it will change. It may change Cuban American attitudes towards Trump. It made him definitely less popular. People I talk to in Miami see it. You hear it. I know it from relatives who are Republicans who voted for him, who are very unhappy with the immigration policies. So I do think it has a potential to make a real impact in voting practices. The question is, what will happen in Cuba?
Oh my God, I gotta tell you something. The Miami Cubans are losing their everlasting minds. All because of a billboard. There was a billboard comparing Trump to Castro as a dictator. And they are pissed off because they feel like this is a slap in their face because they say Cubans are for Trump. And one of the funniest things that I laugh about the Miami Cubans that support Trump is that they're absolutely unhinged. Honestly, they believe he's like the reigning god. And TikTok, this is for informational purposes only because these people that are down there being outraged are threatening to close down the Palmetto Parkway. That's how unhinged they are. They want that billboard down. And what I find interesting to me is that in Cuba, you don't have the right to free speech. But yet these mother effers, they don't want you to have free speech, that somebody else has an opposing opinion. That's why I don't mess with them. That's why they always get me in trouble when I play that stupid Miami jingle for Donald Trump. So let me show you the video, but it's all in Spanish. And I am not trying to translate this word for word. But hold on.
Crece el rechazo por la instalación de una valla en la que se compara el expresidente Donald Trump con Fidel Castro. Orián Brito sigue la polémica
She's just talking about the comparison between Trump and Castro.
Hola, Karines. Muy buenas tardes. La controversia continúa por la instalación de esta valla en la que se compara a Donald Trump con Fidel Castro. Un grupo de cubanos organizado en redes sociales ya ha llegado hasta acá para protestar por lo que consideran es una gran falta de respeto al exilio cubano. Para nosotros esto es una más que una provocación, es una indignación también que estamos indignados del exilio cubano porque por falta de humanidad, la falta de respeto, el que la pagó y el que la cobró, los dos, que ya no es primera vez. Ya no es primera vez que sucede estas cosas. Cubanos residentes de Miami dicen estar indignados luego de que un comité de acción política del Partido Demócrata colocara ayer una valla en la autopista Palmetto a la altura de la avenida 67 en la que comparan al expresidente Donald Trump con el dictador cubano Fidel Castro. Para los manifestantes, esto es un acto de desprecio al exilio cubano.
Y esto es una burla para el cubano que está aquí, para el ciudadano americano, para el que llegó de I-220A, para todo el mundo. Esto es una burla porque todos los cubanos somos trumpistas en la mayoría y en su totalidad. Entonces necesitamos que vean esto, que si nosotros, mi nombre es Nayua Haddad Martínez, soy ciudadana americana. Si en 24 horas no quitan ese cartel, yo me responsabilizo y vamos a cerrar el Palmetto. O quitan el cartel o se cierra el Palmetto porque los cubanos americanos, los cubanos anexionistas como yo y los que no son anexionistas están a favor de Donald J. Trump.
Anyway, that's enough of that. A lot of them are so unhinged. Why are you like this? Absolutely unhinged. You guys have a blessed day.
I voted for Donald Trump in the 2024 election. And I kind of just want to look in retrospect on if I would still make this decision or not. And the answer is hell no, I would not make this decision. I'm going to give things that Trump ran on that he is not completing. First of all, he said he was going to end the Russia-Ukraine war in 24 hours that he got into office. He also said he's going to put a cap on credit card interest. Not happening. He said he was going to go all in on domestic energy production to bring electricity costs down. Nope. Trump also said he was not going to go into Iran, and look what's happening. I'm going to take this as a learning lesson to not always listen to what candidates are promising because they're usually not going to.
Hi, we've now entered the FAFO phase for Cubans. Yes, you heard me correctly. To an alarming surprise, Cubans in Florida are being deported at record numbers. Yes, Cubans, Republicans who voted for Trump, they came here under Biden, under amnesty. They did it the legal way. They're getting deported. I highly encourage you to check out an article in the New York Times. If you're brown, he's coming for you. It doesn't matter if you're here under amnesty, if you did it the right way. They don't care. So we've now entered this FAFO stage for Cubans. So they're doing it in record numbers in Florida. That's because a lot of them, that's where they live. So if you didn't know, Marco Rubio is Cuban. Yeah, he came here from Cuba. And so they're deporting them right now in record numbers. Remember when he deported Venezuelans and then he attacked Venezuela and captured their president and kidnapped him? And then, said that he cared about Venezuelans? Yeah. He doesn't care about you. So FAFO, Cubans for Trump, especially in Florida. Hi.
So when they sent me to America, I spent in America like 12.5 years. I got deported in 1992 to Cuba. But when I was in America first, they welcomed me with an open arm and give me a chance. I don't take it. I don't appreciate it because I start doing crazy things, using the heroin things. So to my mind, when I had no money, I got to use the gun. Because at the place, you can get a gun. They have stores in America to buy guns and things. I commit a crime, I go into jail. To pay what I did, no problem, I pay with it. Really, in that part, I had nothing bad to say about America, okay? They welcome me. They welcome all of us.
Jimmy Carter was part of that administration at the time.
Okay, and he was the president. He welcomed us in America. He's the one that...
I've heard Cubans say that he was the one president that they liked. They didn't like Reagan, they didn't like Bush.
No.
They didn't like Clinton.
No.
Nixon. Nixon was a Nazi.
Carter.
Carter was the man.
Carter was the man, yes.
Did you hear this? I will vote for Donald Trump.
I will vote for Donald Trump. I will vote.
Raise your hands, come on.
For Donald Trump.
Can you imagine what's happening in Miami right now? Those Miami Cubans are losing their everlasting mind because they're like, yay, Donald Trump said he's going to take us. And they thought it was a good idea. They were like, that's a great idea. He can take us because we're going to trade one dictatorship for another. He doesn't see what's happening right now. Donald Trump doesn't want you in this country. He wants you to go back to your island. And I don't know what to tell you. You're looking for status like Puerto Rico? Right now, they're working behind the scenes to make Puerto Rico an independent country. You don't seem to understand that. The problem is logistics for them because they make so much money, billions of dollars because of the Jones Act. Meanwhile, while all of this is happening and people are starving, they don't have enough oil to keep the lights on, and they're not able to provide for their family. And forget about housing, because it's no bueno. But you guys are jumping up for joy. You know what he's going to do? A big old golf course right there in Cuba. And there's going to be some serious colonization going on if anything was to happen. You guys are ridiculous.
No one deserves to go through something like this behind bars. He has lived in Florida for more than half his life and worked for the same construction job for many decades. Every day that goes without him here is a day lost forever. This is about being human, about love, connection, and presence. The one thing he needs the most is the one thing that we're being kept from giving him, which is us. I feel that it would be immoral and inhumane to let a man who is suffering, who is terminally ill, spend what little time he has left in pain and isolation. Please don't let him die in a cell. Please don't let his vital memories be of those of pain and isolation. The American flag stands for compassion, kindness, liberty, and justice for all. We're all human, and today I'm asking for one human act of compassion to please let my dad come home.
My vote, again, is to deny the request for conditional medical release.
When I voted for Trump, I supported the very system that allows this kind of cruelty to happen. I've spent the last few days reflecting, and I feel like I came through some sort of revelation. I questioned my beliefs, my choices, and my role in all of it. My vote wasn't just a mistake. It was the ultimate betrayal of the very people that I come from. I feel like living in South Florida, surrounded by Republican voices, I was brainwashed into thinking I was one of them. I fell for the propaganda, the normalization of cruelty, and I believed the lies that gave me a false sense of security and belonging. I was convinced that voting for Trump was for the economy or against crime, when in reality, I was supporting a man and a movement that dehumanizes people. He basically built his platform on targeting immigrants, spreading hate, and pushing policies that ultimately broke families apart. I regret my vote so deeply, and if I could go back and change it, I would. I'm reading, listening, learning, and unlearning everything that I thought I knew. And to anyone who is feeling the same regret as I am, I want you guys to know that there's still a way for us to move forward, but it starts with honesty first. To every single person who has been affected by the choice that I made, I am so sorry. A lot of you aren't going to forgive me, and I'm really not expecting anyone to, but I just want everyone to know that I'm going to move forward with more compassion, continue educating myself, and fight for those who can't fight for themselves.
He doesn't care about us. Somebody asked him about a week ago, what about the American people? And they're struggling right now.
To what extent are Americans' financial situations motivating you to make a deal?
Not even a little bit. He did not care. I couldn't even watch that. I was angry after that. Like, I voted for you and you don't care about me?
Bueno, look what we got here. A Cuban Trump supporter. Well, aren't you getting what you deserve? Trump's deporting all the Cubans. And you voted for him. Huh. Dios mío, yo no puedo. De esto es Mari sin censura. Vamos para allá. All right, so the New York Times this weekend published an article that you guys keep sending me, and I had to do a video on this because it's just the encapsulation of rage bait news cycle that we have succumbed to as a society, that all of our news is just trying to get us to click on the most outrageous things, so they make the craziest headlines, right? So they exaggerate everything, they make everything a rage bait. So why? So they can get profitability in their shitty ass newspapers that are already dying to begin with. You can tell that I'm on fire today. Estoy en candela with this article. Let me put it up on the screen. To their shock, to our shock, Cubans in Florida are being deported in record numbers. Now, this article right here was written by Patricia Mazzi. She's the chief of the Miami bureau of the New York Times. And what this really is, and I read the entire article, what this really is she wrote it because, of course, Cubans tend to historically be Republican. And that was not an exception in the 2024 election, when Cubans and all Latinos in Florida came out in record numbers for President Trump. So that article really was to rage bait the Cubans, to say, well, look what you voted for. You voted for a president that is now deporting Cubans. Now, a lot of the TikTok idiots will go on TikTok and saying that this is what Cubans voted for. However, you have to be a U.S. citizen in order to vote, so you can't get deported as a U.S. citizen. I don't know if they touch grass yet. However, I want to give you guys some non-rage bait pieces of information that you guys can take and you can discern on your own. So what this article does not say is that between 2021 and 2025, the Biden administration, Cuba experienced record numbers of migration exodus. The biggest exodus, the biggest immigration wave in Cuba's history so far since, of course, the 1959 revolution. He stole, piece of shit Castro that he was. And so this between those 4 years, and really 2022 to 2024 were the really big years, over 1 million Cubans left the island. That is 10%. 10% of the population in Cuba. 10%. And of those 1 million people, 800,000 Cubans came to the United States. 800,000. I want you guys to understand how big that is. That is bigger than the primary exodus in 1959 to 1970, which was the golden, we call that the golden years, the golden exile generation, where over 400,000 Cubans left during that period. And that was a period of over nearly 10 years. That's bigger than the Marielitos. Marielitos were about 100,000 Cubans that left during the Mariel boat lift. And then another 100,000 to 200,000 estimate around there of the balseros. Of course, many of those balseros, the people who went, famously went through rafts through the Florida Straits. Many of those people, unfortunately, did not make it to the United States, but those are the rough estimates. This, if you combine all of the exoduses in the past, this is bigger than all of that combined. That's how many Cubans left the island in the past 4 years alone, thanks to Biden administration for roughly having an open border at the time. Now, Patricia did not mention the roughly 800,000 Cubans that entered the United States between those 4 times. She didn't mention that. She went straight to the point and said that he has repatriated more than 1,600 Cubans. Mi amor, 800,000. Let's do the math. Let's do the math. I'm getting my calculator out right here. 1,600 divided by 800,000, because Lord knows I can't do this math. 800,000. 1,600 divided by 800,000. Okay, you guys, I gotta tell Yoel when we get here, lock the doors, close the blinds. We ain't going anywhere until 2028. No, actually, January 20th, 2029, we ain't going anywhere. We are hunkering down in this house because the Trump administration is getting us. They are getting us because you know how many people that is? 0.002. 0.002 of Cubans. I mean, Dios mío, qué miedo, qué miedo. What massive numbers, Patricia. Massive. And of those 1,600, remember, the Trump administration has not yet, and I will say that about Trump. Trump, release the numbers. Don't release just the Epstein files. Release the ICE numbers, okay? Of those 1,600s, we really have no idea how many had past criminal records, how many already had deportation notices issued to them, because yes, some Cubans have had it and have never never complied with their notices of deportation. We don't know how many of those people were actually already in the process of getting deported, has had criminal records, or came here with fraud. Because if you don't remember, what Patricia doesn't also say in her reporting, because of course the New York Times, we got to rage bait people. We got to just say the most hyperbolic bullshit. In 2023, Cuban fraud. Let me bring this up for you guys on the screen. Okay, so this is a report from the Department of Homeland Security, and they said that they identified fraud risk in parole processes for non-citizens. Okay, so what this really means is in 2023, the Biden administration created something called the humanitarian parole, and people could apply for the humanitarian parole instead of going through the southern border, which I thought at the time would be a really great mitigation of the southern border. We get to vet people and then they come in. Well, there were so many people applying for this humanitarian parole, and of course, the government is ineffective and it doesn't do anything right, that they just massively approved these humanitarian paroles, and then they later found out that over 11,000 visas for these humanitarian parole visas were all being sponsored by the same 100 people. Now, I'm laughing because that is typical Cuban fraud. Like, of course, somebody made a business out of this. Of course, in Miami, they made a business of you paying somebody, right? They'll do all the paperwork and they will sponsor your person in Cuba for the humanitarian parole. Of course, that person has to show that they have the financial means, that they have the capital to bring this person over to the United States. However, they use the same 100 people for 11,000 visas. 11,000 of them, okay? So when we talk about that 1,600 number, we don't know who of those 1,600 were criminals, like I said, had orders of deportation already, or people found a fraud. People found a fraud entering in this country. Now, do I blame the immigrants from Cuba for this fraud? No, I blame them, los huevones, the idiots in Miami who made a profit off of this immigration scam and loophole that they found that they could get a bunch of money doing this for. However, that was what Patricia leaves behind in this New York Times article. So of course, the headline is crafted in a way to provoke people. It's crafted in a way to say, wow, well, look at the Cubans now. They voted for Trump and they're getting deported. Yet she doesn't show that the record numbers of people entering the country were significantly high. That's why there's obviously going to be more deportation. And given that 1,600 people, mijita, 1,600 people in 1 year, that's 4 people a day. 4 people a day. 4 that are getting deported. So, of course, this was an article really in order to stroke those rage bait clicks. And of course, people ate it the fuck up because they all sent it to me. Look, mira, mijita, mira what Trump is doing. Now, there is this other theory that I find really interesting. I haven't really massaged it yet, but I do find it interesting. And that is that, yes, we should be deporting Cubans, or we should be stopping the flow of migrants from Cuba to the United States. Not because we don't want them here, not because we don't think we have, humanitarian reasons to have them here. It's because it will ultimately fuck the Cuban government. Now, why I say that is because this is a 3D chess movement here. Is because the Cuban government has long known, okay? If it's anything that dictatorships do well, is that they are the same party in power for so long that they can be effective in some of their offenses and defenses when it comes to foreign policy. And so we know, right, that the Cuban government has long had a policy of making Cubans into migrants because the backbone of the Cuban economy really is the Cuban migration and the money that they send back to Cuba, right? We know this. They have known and they have crafted this as a response to wet foot, dry foot, as a response to all the benefits that Cubans have had in immigration in the United States. And they said, well, if they're going to do that, we're going to do something else. And America really hasn't caught on to that, I don't think. Maybe the people in the CIA, the FBI, the people in the White House, I don't know, send it to them. But this is really a 3D chess move. The Cuban government has long known about these immigration benefits, and they respond accordingly. They say, oh, well, if the US is going to do that, we're going to play ball too. So let's make Cubans into migrants. Let's send them off to the United States so that they can bring back money into Cuba. And then that's how we can sustain this piece of shit economy that we have, this piece of shit socialism that we have. If Cubans cannot go back to Cuba to give money to the Cuban government, if they can't migrate out of Cuba, well, maybe they're going to have to do something about Cuba. And maybe that's what Marco Rubio is planning. Maybe this is his 3D chessboard saying, hey, okay, Cuban government, you want to play that way? We're not going to make Cubans into migrants anymore. Now, that's just a theory. And I find it interesting. Not necessarily that I think it's the best policy or the best theory, but I do think it is one. And it's interesting to massage that. But this article right here, this disgusting article that you see right here, is only put there so that Cubans feel afraid, so that immigrants feel afraid, so to paint this administration as they're rounding all of us up, when that is further from the truth. Further from the truth. And I really, really hate when the media does this for an obvious purpose. Is to save their dying publications, their dying commentary, and they rage bait you into it so they can profit from your fear. I had to get that one out. So many of you guys asked me for it. So many of you guys asked me about it. I had to get it out. Estoy en candela hoy. Oh, cojones, New York Times. Patricia Matzi, do better. Dale.
I remember when Trump was elected, a bunch of Haitian men who lived near me were very excited that he was elected president. They were very happy about it. One went as far as to tell me that anyone who did not vote for Trump was stupid. Okay. Well, this weekend, all we've heard and seen are those same people at the barbershop, or outside of the barbershop, on the street corners, etc., crying and emoting and campaigning and doing all the things. Well, excuse me, this is what you voted for. And votes have consequences. Maybe spend that energy figuring out how you're going to help the people you know who will be sent back.
Thank you for watching Great Minds Black.